Hello everyone, it's Carrie at Inky Bee Journals and Ephemera. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time visiting my channel, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So today we are continuing on with the Shabby Pink Roses journal, which is this journal here, and it's becoming quite the chunky monkey. And today we are up to part 8 and we are working on pockets, writing papers and tags. So if you haven't seen parts 1 through to 7 so far and you would like to, I will put a link in the description box below. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there will be a link there for a playlist titled Junk Journal Tutorials. Now today, seeing as we are working on ephemera ideas, I will also put a link in the bottom of the description box there for another playlist titled Ephemera Ideas, if you'd like to check those out. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. So I've been working on this and this has it's gotten quite thick. It's got 4 signatures in it, so we have 4 signatures already stitched in, and I have gone ahead and done some work since I put the last video up. I've put some page border edges in some of the pages, and I have also put in some of the pockets just to save on time, because I have 4 signatures in here. This series would take 15-20 episodes before we were done, so I'm trying not to make it too much longer than it's already been. So I've done a little bit of work ahead of time, so I have got the pockets in for the first 3 signatures, but I will make the pockets for the last signature with you, and I will also make some more of these writing papers. And in the center of each of these signatures we have these flip out pockets. So in the last signature we will make some more of these, and these are just the writing tags that I'm putting in there. And then in another video we'll make some tags for these ones and for these side tucks here. So go back to the first pocket here and we'll just make a writing paper for that one. So I'll move that aside, and I have this writing paper here. This is a design from Blossom Paper Art, and I will put a link in the description box for the Blossom Paper Art Etsy store, and hopefully if I can find the link for the kit that I got this paper from, I'll put that in the description box below as well. Now to make the writing paper, all I'm going to do, this was an A4 sheet of paper. If you can print borderless, then that's even better. If you can't print borderless, just go ahead and cut all the white edges off the sides, and then all I have done is turned it to the back side and I've just folded over a little bit. Now how wide you want it to be is up to you, but I'm just putting like a little border down the side page edge, and I've just folded it over by, I don't know, maybe about an inch, and that's all I've done. And I'm just going to crease that with my hand, and then I'm just going to grab my bone folder and run over that, and then I'm going to just going to move this across. I'm just going to find my blue paper, and I'm just going to place that down. Now you can use glue stick. I'm just going to use some of this glue stick today, and if you don't use glue stick, that's fine. You can use some other type of glue. I suggest something that works well with paper, doesn't have too much in the way of high water content, so it doesn't cause your paper to wrinkle and warp and or potentially tear, and something that maybe dries clear, so that if there is a little bit of seepage that you can't wipe away, that it will dry clear and it won't be so noticeable. So I'm just going to take the lid off my glue. Now this is a new glue stick, and I'm just going to open this bit up that we've folded, and I'm just going to glue over this. And then I'm going to fold that back over, and I'm just going to flatten that out. And I'm just going to run over that with my bone folder on both sides. And I'm just going to put the lid on my glue for a moment. If you do hear a whirring sound in the background, I do have my air conditioner going because we still have the cold months here in Australia, and we are having a particularly cold snap at the moment. So I hope it's not too distracting for you. So you may see that there is a little bit of overhang on the side there where we folded. So I'm just going to get my scissors and just cut that off evenly. And if it's the same on the other side, then just go ahead and cut that off. But I think it's fine on the other side. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do is just fold it. So I'm just going to fold it, the printed side over to the back side to about there, and that's maybe about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. Try to get it straight, and to get it straight, try and line up the edges here at the top and the bottom, and that way you've got a better chance of getting it straight. Then I'm just going to go over it with my bone folder, and then I'm just going to fold the other side over, the side that you've got the glue flapped down, and I'm just going to fold it over by however far you want to fold it really. I'm folding it about an inch in from this edge, and then I'm just going to run over that with my bone folder just to crease down that fold line. And then I know I need to cut this down a little bit further to fit into my pocket, so I'm just going to use my little paper trimmer, and I'm just going to make sure that these edges are straight, but at this end I'm actually going to cut it off by about an inch. So at this end I'm just going to take off just a very small amount, maybe a 1/16 or so, just to make sure that it's nice and even across the bottom and there's nothing sticking out. And then I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to line it up with my 1 inch mark on the paper trimmer's ruler here, and hold that down and cut. And I'm going to hang on to this because I might be able to turn that into a nice little belly band. And then we've got this right. So just to give a quick check that this fits into this pocket nicely, which it does, height-wise, width-wise, it fits in there just nicely. Now, if you want to dress things up on the front here a bit more, you certainly can. All I'm going to do is, sit this up out the way, is I'm just going to use a little bit of ink, and I'm just using Tim Holtz Ranger Distress Oxide in Victorian Velvet, and I'm just using a little finger dauber. I will try to put a link in the description box for this if you happen to be interested. Of course, you don't have to use this colour or this ink for that matter. You can use whatever you prefer. So I'm just going to run this ink all over the edges on the front and the back. You don't have to do inking if you're not a fan of the way it looks or you don't like dealing with the ink. Then that's fine, you don't have to do the inking. If you do like the inking, it's really easy for those who haven't done it before. It just helps to highlight the edges a little bit if you're looking for that effect. It also helps to hide any white edges where your paper has been cut, if you're trying to hide that off. And it can help give a little bit of a grungy look if you want to do that. And you can do it in the colour that you like. So I've done it on one side and I'm going to turn it over and do it on the other side. And it just helps it to stand out a little bit, give it a little bit of definition to help it stand out against the colour that you're leaning it against. So we're putting this down on a page that is coffee dyed, and so having this little bit of a pink edge will just help make it stand out that little bit. But it's not a must-do. It's really just a personal choice. Okay. So there's one really basic one. You can always dress these up with a little bit of something down this edge or a sticker or something if you want to, or dress it up with something here if you want to do that. So I'm just going to bring this back in and place this in the pocket, and there we go. So I think I have another one that needs to be done here. So I have another pocket here, so we'll make another writing paper for this one. So once again, we'll turn it over, we'll fold it up by about an inch. You don't have to measure this unless you really want to be specific about it. I'm not trying to be specific, I'm just roughly eyeballing it. You can make it wider or you can make it thinner, that just really depends what your personal choice is. And this is just one way to dress up a writing paper. Of course, it's not the only way to do it, but this is just one way. There's lots of ideas for doing this type of thing on YouTube if you want to look that up for other options. So now we can turn this back around this way, And we can fold the right side over to the left, or the pattern side folded back to the non-pattern side. And I'm just going to crease that down. Run over that with the bone folder to crease down that fold line. And then fold the other side over. Of course, if you are predominantly left-handed or predominantly right-handed, you can fold it whichever way you are most comfortable with it being folded. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You're basically just folding it a little bit so that it will fit into your pocket space. So I'm just going to bring in my paper trimmer. I'm going to cut a tiny little bit off one end just to make sure it's all nice and even. And then I'm going to pull it through and take off 1 inch from the other end. I'll hang on to this piece for a little belly band. And then we can ink this up. So I hope everyone's enjoying your week and that you're all well. We've had some nice weather here, although we have had some rain as well. I think tomorrow might be the last of our good days for a little while, and then it might go back to being rainy. So I'm hoping tomorrow I can get outside and mow my lawns, catch up a bit, and still attend an appointment, and I will have my dad visiting for a very short time. He's going to be back in town with another trailer load of things because he's moving back to where I live, not to my house, but he's bought a house here and he's moving back to my town and moving into a house a couple of minutes down the road from where I live, so that would be good. So just inking along those edges. So that's writing paper number 2 done. I've just printed a, I don't know if the camera picks this up, but I've just printed a faux tea or coffee stain paper on the back side of this. So we can find the pocket this belongs to, and we can slide this back in here. So there's that one. So I've done one for this pocket, one for this pocket, and now we need to, oh, I've done one for this pocket. So now we need to do a pocket for here and another writing paper, and then we have one more pocket and writing paper to do. So we'll start with making the pocket. So I'm just using scrap cardstock that I have, and I haven't cut it to any specific size. I'm just starting with the size that the scrap already was. So this is currently, if I look at my ruler the right way up, it is not quite 2 3/4 this way, and this way it is about 8 1/4, but it's going to be cut down. So the first thing we're going to do, because we're making a gusseted pocket so that we've got some more real estate to use, I'm just going to put it in my little scoreboard here, and I'm just going to score it at the 1/4 inch line, and then I'm going to fold it along that line, making sure that when you fold it away from you, so that when you're folding, you fold inwards. So the same side that you've got this little ridge, I don't know if the camera picks that up, you've got this little ridge on this side, and this is the side that we scored on. You want to fold into the ridge side. And then once we've done that, we can bring this back in, and what I've done is I've turned this around so that the ridge, so that this folded edge is on the right hand side, and I'm just going to place it in to get a rough idea of the size that I need, but I'm not going to put it right up against this middle line here because I want to give just a little bit of clearance there. And then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to mark the edge of the page, and then move this out the way, bring back in my scoreboard. I had that just in front of me, and I'm going to place this in, and I'm going to line this little mark on my paper up with any one of these lines on the scoreboard. We don't need to measure this one, we just need to line it up with one of the lines, and then just score down that line. And then once again, where we've done the score line, we push it away from us that way, so that we've got 2 folds. Now we actually don't need all of this extra bulk here, so we're going to bring in the paper trimmer. You can just use a pair of scissors and cut that off if you wish. It doesn't have to be super straight, but you just want to cut it so that it's roughly the same width as this. So this is about a 1/4 of an inch, so you can take about the same off this side. I can see my line. So I've taken that piece off, and we'll hang on to that because we might be able to use that for another thing. And then I'm going to bring this in, and on the same side that I've scored the cardstock the first couple of times, I'm going to have that face up, and I'm going to score it along. It doesn't matter whether you score on this side or this side, whichever side you want to be the bottom of your pocket. So we just line that up in the scoreboard, and we score at the 1/4 inch line. Then we can move the scoreboard, and we can once again fold our crease line away from us like this. Now I'm just going to quickly run over these scores with my bone folder just to reinforce those crease lines. And then we need to miter these corners so that we haven't got the bulk when we fold them in. So how we do that, I'll just get my pen and mark it so you can see where we have our cross point here, where those two folds meet. We need to cut a slight angle here and a slight angle here, just like that. And we need to do that on both sides. So we need to, where we have our crossbar here, we need to angle out a little bit there, and we need to angle out a little bit here. Just very slightly. Now you can use a pair of scissors. You can use, I'm actually going to use my finger blade because it's a bit easier to do a small area like this. So I just go from that point and angle out a little bit, and then from that point and angle out a little bit again. So we're only taking a small, tiny little piece out. And we need to do that on both sides. You can use a small pair of scissors if you have those. A large pair of scissors can be used, they just might be a little bit more awkward to do the job. And then we just need to get a little bit of glue. Now, I'm actually going to use a little bit of art glitter glue for this. So I just have it in my little bottle here, but this is the glue that I'm using. You don't have to use this glue, but I will put a link in the description box for this glue if you are interested. So I'm just going to put a tiny little drop. Just going to put a tiny little drop right there, and then I'm just going to close that up and hold it for just a moment, just long enough for it to grab. And then we're going to repeat that process on the other end, and that's far too much glue. And I'm just going to pinch that closed for a moment. And I'll put the pin back in my glue so it doesn't dry out. Okay, so there's our little gusset area in our pocket. So that's the pocket base. And then we need to cover it. Now I've got some scraps of decorative paper here. This is also part of the Blossom Paper Art collection. Again, I will try to have a link for this in the description box if you are interested. And it's cut about the same size of the piece of cardstock before we folded it. So I'm just going to turn it to the back side, and I'm just going to lay it down on the front here upside down so the pattern side is face down. And I'm just going to lay it down, leaving myself a little bit of a border across the top and down one side. How much of a border you want is up to you, but I've given myself about 1/8 of an inch in border space. And I'm just going to use my pencil, and I'm just going to eyeball it and put a little mark on this side and across the bottom, so that when I cut it, it should give me a border roughly the same width all the way around. So we'll put that aside. We'll bring in the paper trimmer and we'll cut this down. And hang on to this because it's also big enough to do something with in the future. And then I'm just going to cut down this piece. Okay. You might also want to hang on to these strips here because they can make nice little decorative border edges. So now that we've got this, if we bring this back in, it should sit on there so that we have a nice little border all the way around. So the next thing we need to do is glue this down. So again, I'm going to bring in the glue paper. I'm going to use my glue stick and I'm just going to put glue all over this piece. Making sure you get all of the edges. Bring our pocket in. If you have a directional paper, try to remember to check the direction you're sticking it down on before you stick it down. And we're going to try and line this up as best as we can. Like that, and we're just going to press that down, and I'm just going to run over that with my bone folder just to make sure we have a good stick. And there we go. Now you could leave it like that. I'm actually going to put a finger notch in there, thumb notch, but in the interest of not jamming up my circle punch, I'm going to let this one just sit for a little bit to dry before I go ahead and do that. So while that's happening, I'm going to do the second one. And by the time we've done the second one, the first one should be dry. So I need the scoreboard. And I'm just going to score at the 1/4 inch line, and I'm going to fold that back, and then I'm going to measure it to make sure I know how far I need it to be. So the edge of my page is just here. So now I'm just going to line that pencil mark up with one of the lines on the scoreboard, and I'm just going to run my stylus down, and then I'm going to push that where the score line is, push it down away from me. Just like that. Then I'm going to move that aside, and I'm going to bring in the paper trimmer. I'm going to cut that down by a little bit. And where's my score line? There. Move that bit over, score the paper trimmer away, bring back in the scoreboard, open these two folded flaps out and place it back in my trimmer, and once again I'm going to score down this 1/4 inch line. I can move the scoreboard, fold away from me along that score line, and then I'm going to run over those scores quickly with my bone folder just to make sure we've got got a good crease. Okay. The next thing we need to do is miter these corners here. So I'm just going to go from the crossover bit here to the center, and I'm just going to cut out on the angle a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to do the same thing. So I have just cut out that little triangle piece. And I'm just going to repeat that on this side. And cut that little piece out. Bring in the glue. And we are just going to glue down this little gusset area. So put a dab of glue just there. Fold that over and hold that for just a moment so that it can grab. And then we can do the same at this end. Put just a dab of glue down there. And we can hold that for a moment. And then we can put a pin back in the glue, put that aside. And then we have our pocket. Now we can bring the decorative piece in. We can flip it to the wrong side and we can measure roughly the border that we want. Make a mark. Another mark. And then we can cut that down. And cut down the other side. We should have a nice little border there all the way around. So now we can glue this down. We'll grab the glue paper and the glue stick. And you want to make sure that you're getting right around these edges, because there's nothing worse than using a glue stick, sticking your piece down and then finding the edges are not sticking correctly. Because it's not easy to then pull it up and stick it down again. Once again, make sure you've got your paper the right way up if it's directional. And then stick this down, trying to make sure you have it even. And just press that down with the bone folder. Okay, so there's number 2. So we'll bring this one back in and we'll cut a thumb notch. Now I'm just using a 1 inch. You don't have to use this size. You can use whatever size you like. I just like this size. So I'm actually going to turn it upside down to use it so that I can see how far in I'm putting it. And I'm just going to put the top edge in through this slot here so that I can see where how far in I'm putting it. And I'm going to roughly gauge where the center is of the pocket. And I'm going to put it in just below halfway here and then punch. Then I'm just going to grab my ink and I'm just going to grab put a little bit of ink just in that bit there. It won't really show up much on the cardstock itself. Now what I've done on the others, and I've already done these so I can't pull them up, but what I had done on the others is inked around the actual decorative piece before I glued it down, but I've forgotten to do that. So again, it is not something you have to do, it's just something that I like to do. I just forgot to ink these bits of decorative paper before I stuck them down. But it doesn't matter. So we'll see if this one will work without having to jam up the paper punch. There we go. So we have both our pockets. So we'll fold this back here. Bring this back in. And this pocket will go just here. So we can glue that in. And again, I'm just going to use the art glitter glue for this. And I'm just going to put glue along these gusset flaps on the two sides and across the bottom. And just lining it up at the bottom and along the side. And I'm just going to press that down. Making sure I have a good stick. Excuse me. Okay, so that's given us a pocket that we can use there. So I'm going to make another writing paper to go in that pocket. So again, we're going to fold this over by about an inch. Go over that with the bone folder. Bring the glue paper in. Dear me, we don't need such a big mess there. And we're just going to fold that down. And we're going to fold this over. fold this side over. And then we're going to bring in the paper trimmer. And we're going to cut an edge off here, just a fine edge. And then we're going to cut about an inch off the other end. And we'll keep this. And then we'll ink this paper up. I'm sorry if you heard that noise, my printer just decided to turn itself on. So just running the ink along the edge of the paper. And then I'll turn it over and do the same thing. Just to hide any white edges. Okay. So there's another one. Okay. So this in here. And must have had another pocket there. Pin the glue before it dries up. So that one's been done. So there should be another spot for a pocket somewhere. I will have it written in these pages somewhere. There we go, that's where the other pocket goes. So we can glue this other pocket in. Once again, we glue it at the edge of the page and along the bottom edge, and then we press down and we give that glue a moment to set up. And then we can put this aside and we can get to making another writing paper. Now this time I'm going to do a different type of writing paper. I'm quite literally just folding the page in half, the same way you would if you were making a signature page. Just like that. And I'll just run the bone folder over that crease line. But this is going to be too wide for the pocket and too high for the page. So what we're going to do is cut this down. So pretty sure I made this 5 1/4 wide, because these pages are wider than that. So cut that down a little bit. And again, if you want to, you can keep these little pages for border strips or to add to a bit of a paper ruffle or something like that for a little bit of contrast. And then we need to cut the height down. So I'm going to, just to make sure both edges are even, I'm just going to take a tiny little bit off the bottom. And then I will take an inch off the top. Once again, this can be used for something else. And then this page should fit in this pocket. This page might be a little bit narrower. This pocket is a little bit narrower, so we do need to cut this down a little bit more. So we'll take another 1/4 off. We'll make it 5 and we'll see if that fits any better. There you go, that fits better. So now we'll just take this out and we'll run some ink around the edge. Now you can decorate this up further if you wish to. I don't always decorate things too much because I tend to enjoy the patterns that are already on the paper. Sometimes you don't really need to decorate everything up too much. Then we can turn it over and do the other side. Now some of my pages are still white on the other side here, but I'm not too worried about that because it's only going to be me using this journal and I can look past that. But certainly if I was making this for somebody or if I was selling it, I would definitely make sure I've got all the pages the same. So there's that. And I just slide in there nicely. Alright, so the last thing we need to look at doing is going to the center here where we have these flip out pockets. So I'm going to make some tags that look like these, which you can write on the back. So I'll just make some of those. And I've got a couple of images here to use. So we'll start with this one. And I'll move that over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I've already cut these down a little bit so that they fit in the pockets. And I'm just going to reinforce them a little bit by sticking them down on another piece of paper and then sticking some coffee dyed paper on the other side, and that just thickens them up and stiffens them a little bit, enough to be strong enough to be tags to go in and out, but not so rigid that they're going to be difficult to get in and out, but they'll be nice and smooth on the back. So I'm just going to, dear me, I keep moving things from left to right today. Sit this back up here and hopefully my printer doesn't try to turn itself on again. Now I'm just going to put glue on the back of this. And as I've said before, just try to make sure you've definitely got it along all of those sides and in those corners. And then I'm just going to bring in my scrap and I'm just going to place that down on the scrap. I'm just going to flatten that out. I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing with my bone folder. And then I'm going to bring in a piece of coffee dyed paper. Now I still have a scrap here that I'll use. So now I think I can get both of these on here, but to do that I think I need to cut this down. So I'm just going to cut around the edge of the image, taking away this bit of white border. Like that. And then again I'm going to bring this in and I'm going to fold this over because it's getting a bit gluey, and I'm going to glue the back of this. And we're just going to glue this down on this page. Once again, we're just going to go over that with the bone folder on both sides. That just helps to spread the glue out. Sometimes it can help stop things curling too much. If you do have a little bit of curling, that tends to happen sometimes, but if you do have a little bit of curling, you can just put it under a heavy book, or I've even just put it between reams of paper, and that's quite heavy on its own, and that will just help flatten it out. So once again, I'm just going to cut this out. And I'm just using coffee dyed paper, and this is home coffee dyed. It's not a digital coffee dye, so it does have a coffee smell to it, but that doesn't bother me because I am a big coffee drinker anyway, so the smell of coffee is quite normal for me. So once we've got it to this point, the next thing we need to do is let it dry a little bit, and then I'm going to cut corners into that. But I'll let it dry for a little bit first, and we'll do the second one. So here's the second one I have. So I'll bring the glue paper back in. We'll get the glue, and we'll glue this. So I find dealing with glue sometimes, glue sticks a little bit fiddly, but whenever you're doing something where you want a flat surface underneath for writing on, for example, such as a tag like we're making, it always helps to be able to glue it to something that is going to have a flat surface underneath, and not something that is going to have ridges underneath from the glue that you use. Okay, I'm just going to cut that out. I'll move these little pieces, and then we'll glue this piece to this piece, this last piece of coffee dyed paper. So we'll move this aside, and we'll glue this down. That with the bone folder. If you like using the sewing machine, you can stitch around your pockets if you like that look. And see, by using this type of glue, I've got a flat surface here for writing on. And then we can just trim this out. Those over. Now we'll let this one dry for a moment, and we're going to cut corners off this one, so you can freehand it if you like. I'm just going to use this old card that I have, so, and I've just cut different angles out of the card, the old gift card, and I'm just going to line the edges on this side up and the point at the top. And I'm just going to hold that there, and I'm just going to cut that off. And then I'm going to use this piece. So it was this way, and I'm just going to flip it upside down so that the blank side is facing up. I'm going to put it in the opposite corner as a template, and I'm just going to cut along there, and then I can discard those, and there is your tag. And we'll do that with this one, and this one's curling a little bit, but as I said, you can put them under something heavy for a little while, and that will just help them to flatten out. Okay, so there's our two tags. So we can bring the journal back in, and we can place these in here so they fit inside those pockets like that. And this one goes this way. That, and we have these pockets here to fill in yet, and then on the other side of these flips we have these side tucks, so we'll fill those with some more large writing tags, which will be similar to these but bigger ones, but we'll do those another day. So that's where we are up to. You can see that it's quite the chunky monkey. And I just have some paper clips in here with little notes to tell me what I'm doing for the rest of the pages. So once those are out and we've done those things, then we'll be ready to look at putting a closure on here soon. Now the next video will be part 9. And that's when we'll do the last of the decorating sort of thing. And part 10 will be basically the flip through and maybe adding the closure as well. So then we will wrap up this journal, because it's been a long series, and I know it can be a little bit taxing on people to have to follow for quite some time. So but we're almost up to the end of this journal, so I will leave the video there for now. If you liked this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so that YouTube can send you a notification when I upload new videos for you. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, and I will see you next time. Bye.